Mesechte Menochos Daf Chof Aleph Amar Aleph. We'll start from the words Aval Yayin, which is on the top line. Aval Yayin, the end of the top line. Okay, but what we want to bring out is that we were mayit from Psukim that Yayin Nesachim doesn't need Yayin doesn't need to have. You don't need salt.
Salt?
Yeah, even though it's in the Sachem Zakarm, it doesn't need salt. I don't have some salt. So you say not Yayin. We're going to get into that. Yesterday we gave reasoning why it won't help by Yayin, because only what type of a carbon is a carbon that needs salt if it's brought with something else, like Mincha is brought with wood to fire it up. So then Yayin is drinking. It's not. There's no fire there. Okay. So where do we see that? The Tanya Avalai Yayin, Adam Eitzim, Aktex into the Melech. They don't need Melech. Who is this Baraisa that says that all these items don't need salt? If it's following Rabbi Kasha Eitzim, is a Kasha because by the Eitzim it says it doesn't need salt, and Rabbi holds Befedish, wood needs salt because wood. Wood, you need a separate piece of wood for the logs of wood that they burnt for the Kabim Eitzim, those logs, and they had a different wood on the bottom to burn the logs. So the Eitzim came with Eitzim, it came with other things. So if the wood came with wood, so it needs salt. And we said, in this what I said, that one of the items that don't need melach is Eitzim. Now, if it follows the Rabbanan, Kasha Keteiris. According to Rabbanan, it says Keteiris you don't need melach, and the Rabbanan halten us tuning that the Keteiris was burnt on wood. It had to have wood to burn the Keteiris, just like the Mincha. It does need salt according to Rabbanan, and here it says one of the items is Keteiris that doesn't need salt. So yeah, the carbon was said daft haben azach mit them. Then had to be salt. If it was alone, without anything like blood, wine, doesn't come with wood, so that it doesn't need salt. Anyway, but here you can't say that Rabbi or Rabbanan says, "Hi, Tana who?" This Tana of the Braisa follows the following Braisa, the Tana of this Braisa. The Tanya that we learned in the Braisa, Rabbi Yishmael ben Neish, Rabbi Yochanan ben Berekahima, Ma haprat nefeidish, Dav shem mekabel tuma ve'oila leishim. Just like the prat, in the Torah that we said, there's the chol minchas is the klal, mincha is the prat. This is from the daf before. It means dafke mincha, and then it says kol kabancha. So since it says a klal or prat or klal, and the prat says befedish, beterlinyam licha hainu mincha, though there has to be something that's a food that could be makabel tuma. And it goes on a fire, that you burn it on the fire of the Mizbeach. And it has to be dafka on the Mizbeach HaChitzin. So those are the conditions that have to have Malicha. Only those are going to be Mechuyev in Melach. Yatsu Eitzim. Eitzim is nicht Essenvarg. It's not a food that's Mekabel Tuma. Yatsu Eitzim She'ei Mekabel Tuma. It says, B'negei to the Barocha, that it was Mekabel Tumah, that was only with the Rabbanan, not Minat Torah. Yotzu, as they state in Rashi. Yotzu dam v'yayin, and also excludes blood and wine. Shein eil la'ishim. You don't put the blood and wine on the fire. There's no eitzim with it. So therefore, there's no melicha. Yotzu keteiras, shein alam mizbeich hachitzin. Keteiras was not placed on the mizbeich hachitzin, it was in the mizbeich hapnimi. So so this is the Tana who said that all these items don't need salt because he learns that you need three conditions. It has to be something that's makabel tumah, something that goes on the fire, and it has to be on the mizbeach hachitzah. Welche? Keteiris will get from fire. Oh, but the keteiris is nicht gemeint mit mizbeach hachitzah. It was not mizbeach hapnimi. So therefore, there's no salt. Says you want the time. Here it comes out the whole reason that by dam there was no salt because time in the ma'it kral dam because the pasuk was memayit by dam. It says al kavancha v'lei al damach and or like here, halav hachi. But if not for that pasuk, that special pasuk that we brought before, if you remember, it says, I'm sorry, al min chasecha, and not al damecha. That was the diuk that dam doesn't need salt. Salt is malach dafke al min chasecha. Only on your mincha, but not from the blood. Halav hachi. If not for that miyut, havamina dam lebayim malach. I would have thought dam does need salt. In fact, how could you say that? Give the malchei. Immediately when you make it salt, nothing going to is dam. It went out of the gather of dam. The Amazir Amar Rabbi Chanina dam shabishla na'ivalav. Dam that was cooked. You're not over for eating this dam because the only dam that you're over is the dam that is shaykh to be makav on the mizbeach. I don't know if I have the pasuk here, but we learn it out from the dam that was sacrificed in the mizbeach.
That wasn't cooked.
That wasn't cooked. When you put salt on blood, is the dam machlis? It makes it like reiseyach. It makes it like it's boiling. So it's dam. So how could you say you would have thought that the dam you could put salt? If you put the salt on the dam, it's not dam. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Zidei. Dam shamolcha inayvelav. Dam that was salted is you're not over mishumisa dam because the melicha is like bishul.
So then you could eat the dam.
Then you can eat the dam. I'm just trying. Here is the pasuk. Ki hadam hu banefesh yichaper. So we learn out, and so kol nefesh mikem leisachol dam. Nefesh, the dam which is mechaper al nefesh, is that's the dam nefesh that you eat if you eat dam. But if it's cooked, if it can't use it for kapara, then it's mutter. It's not dam. Rabbi Yehuda says, an additional thing, it's not negated to the kasha. Evarim shetzlon, we had it before. No, as noch hadin, there was nicht negated. It's the hemshich from the brayse. But really, the kasha is from dam. But this we had before, a varim that was roasted. So helon, and he put it on the mizbeach. Ein b'hem mishum le'eich nechayach. There's no reich nechayach because once you roasted, you took out the whole smell.
It has to be the raw meat itself.
It has to roast on the mizbeach. Right, but the barbecue has to be on the mizbeach. You can't have it roasted before. Yeah. Okay. Zog the Gemara. So that's the kasha of the Gemara. So how could you say if nishva the pasik? Well, you zog that dam does need salt. It can't have salt. It's not dam. And the Gemara mal the tema mishta ba mahashahu the mitzvah. I would have thought nishling asar dam, like 1 grain of salt on the mincha mishan yotza even dam, not kedei salt that it should boil. Just that 1 dam to be yotza vegan. Kamash Malon. That's why the Tatus come to teach us that by dam kachim no salt at all. So you want to go from Manfrey land. Amazir Amar Rabbi Chanina dam shabishlei. Blood that was cooked. Ain't over love. You're not over because of Isa Achilas dam. Why? Yosef Rava v'kam al shmaita. Rava sat down and he said the sugya. And Eisvei Abai, once he said, Rava said the sugya is guy he couldn't Abai gefakt hashayla. He says, Abai and Rava Hamschal Mogi kicked. So Rava Zok says, I didn't have a shayla guy. My shayla is like this: Hikpa es Adam. Let's say the blood is given faglivet. It became congealed. And he ate it. Or the chayla was already congealed. He melted it and then he ate it. Chayiv, he's chayiv achatas, or kares, if he eats a bemezit, like eating dam and chayla. So you see, we're finishing this beraisa, that by dam, which was nisvashal legamri, how does it become congealed? From heating it up, from cooking it. The dam becomes congealed, faglivet, because when you cook it.
When you cook it.
Yes, sure. And until it becomes nikrash, till it becomes faglivet. And it's not. And you said he's over for eating dam when he ate it when it was faglivet. It's already after cooked. After cooked, it's not dam. Why should be over? The chayla was cooked already. It was faglivet. Then we waited till he melted, but he shouldn't be chayiv. Kasha, yes. So you want to kasha. Kasha hikba bechama. One, the case that we're talking about that he's that he's not going to be over the Yisr, that he cooked it with a fire. But if it was from the sun, it's not cooked. Why? But when you cook in a fire, blood, it's never going to become liquidy like before. With a fire. Once you do it in a fire, it'll always stay somewhat thick. But if you cook in the sun, it can come back to normal. Sagt die Mother, aber Chama Nami, he says the Mother, even by Chama, yes, he's vergliven geworden, and it will become back liquid. Aber the Weile is geworden nicht itche. Because right now it's verglivet, and if it's verglivet, it's no good. And we say once it wasn't, there was at one time that shenish given royal lemizbeach, so it's never royal. So why should you say it's here? The Abayimene Rabbi Mani had the effect from Rabbi Yechon. Dam shekadosh v'achal ma'u. Dam that was verglivet and he ate it. What's the din? Amalei Rabbi Yechon said, so you see. Even though it could come back to normal, we don't care. Once it was nitcha, it's nitcha.
It's not the same dam.
It's not the same. So when Rabbi heard that Tainus of Abaye ishtik, he kept quiet and nicht gewusst was zu haben für ihn. So Abaye says, I'll answer for you. Yes. Ich frage nicht zu antworten. Okay. Amalei. So Abaye said to Rabbi, Dilma vadai, maybe for sure, that you can be machalik. Kam bechatois achitzonius. And kam bechatois apnimius. By a chatas chitzeni, we're not so much. Yeah, so there's going to be a difference. What's the difference? You remind me something. And he ate it chayiv. He's chayiv for that dam, even though he ate it when it was faglivet. Why? Well, what's the? He still can do the avodah even when it's faglivet by the chatas chitzenius. Because by the chatas achitzenis, what does it say? V'lokach, he should stick his finger, take out a little bit of dam, afilu faglivet dam, and then it says v'nosan, he should smear it on the corners. He could. You could take faglivet dam in the finger and smear it, so the avodah could still be done, like chalk, and you could still do it. So the avodah, since the avodah could be done. So this is a shaykh to do the avodah. So therefore, even when it's faglivet, it has a dim from dam, and you're going to be chayiv when you eat even faglivet dam. Yeah. Why? Doesn't state the Torah English. How is the avodah with toval? He has to dip his finger, and then the blood has to stay. It won't stay. You dip. If it's faglivet, if it's something like a rock. You think the rock is going to come on your finger? No, it's not going to go. And then steht v'hiza, you have to spray it. It's nicht spritzen. It's verglivet. It's butcha. Yeah. So it's not shy to be toivel, it's not shy to do azah. So it's nicht talking aveda. So therefore, if it's no aveda, so it's mutter. It's not dam. It's not considered as dam. So whatever the day. Rabbi himself will say, he says by the chatois apnimis, where you need to spray it and dip it, he says you'll still be chayiv. He says, since you find a dugma of dam shenikrash, which is good, it could use by Aveda, even though here not. But since by Chitzens you can use by Aveda, he's saying geworden also matum. He holds kinect, and therefore he says even the dam of a chameir was nicht kein kosher animal. This is nicht this is a tummy the animal. You can never be makar chameir. But he says, no, you eat the dam, you're going to be chayiv. Why? Since you find such dam bechlal, was faglivet, and it's shaykh to use for aveda by other behemoths. So any dam that's in this stage will be asa.
What about dam dogging?
Dam dogging is another dam. He doesn't talk about it, but here he's talking about it in behemoths. Es kann sein, es ist ein ganzer Chilik zwischen der Dam Dog und Dam.
I know, früher fragt them a carb, a little bit of carb.
Yes.
Would you use the blood from the carb?
In the kocherei.
It gives them more liver.
Wow. I don't know.
So, it's supposed to be can't.
Yeah.
Dam is kosher.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's kosher. It's a different din. It's a whole different din. I'm gonna have Gidol. I'm gonna say that's why I would like what the mashal you gave. So that's the chilik. Dam behema is us, is nefesh. Dam by fish is andish. I'm gonna have Gidol. I'm gonna see it. Dam bein lach bein yodesh. I'm gonna see it said halacha. Dam, whether it's liquidy, whether it's dry, chitzitz, it's gonna be a chatzitza. If you have dam and you want to go to mikveh, even if it's wet dam, it's going to come off. It's a chatzitza still. What are you talking about? Adam, here it says faket. We said bein lach afilu with nasa liquidy dam is going to be chatzitza. Here is a brayse when state it's lach and ain't a chatzitza. If it's liquidy, it's not going to be chatzitz. Yeah, sagt ihr, like kasha. It's nicht kein kasha. Had the sadich. There, when we said the dam is going to be usher, it's talking about still liquidy, but it's dry. It's starting to get dry. Even a little bit of dry will stick. It starts sticking a little bit. It does stick. It's a chatzitza. The loy sadich here didn't start yet to get a drop dry, so it's not sticky at all. So therefore, it's not going to be chatzitza. Sagt ihr, we learned in the pasuk. It says v'chol karban min chascha b'melach timlach. Zweimal. Melach, timlach. So what is this timlach? Timlach l'mayasa. What is the word timlach coming to teach us? So if you want to look at the Tanya, like we learned in the following Baraisa, it says melach. It says the word salt. Yachal, I would have thought to say, tivayneu, pile up a lot of salt. A bag from Zalz. Tamad Leimer timlach says the Gemara, no, nicht richtig. A bissel Zalz, only a little bit of salt. It says you want to eat timlach. If we would say timlach, so without melach, it says by melach timlach. What do I need by melach? Say timlach, which means a little bit of salt. It says yachol b'mei melach. I would say you don't need salt. You need salt water. Mei melach is good also for the cover. Zalz Wasser as a Pesach. So just like Zalz Wasser, Pesach is good. So that's by a common good. By melach and afamach Zalz. You need real salt. You can't play games. So it says, well, oh, now we're going to talk about which salts. Oh, very good. It says, you shouldn't destroy it should always be melech. So you want to have a melech sheina sheveses. You have to bring a melech that you can get it at any season. Which one is that? Veizezu melech damus. That's the salt water of that's in the yam. You have it all yam melech. All the oceans are salty. So you always have salt. How do you know if he doesn't have this salt water that's always in every season, but he has to mine? How do you say mine? They mine it in the ground. In the ground, they mine in the ground and they make salt. How do you know you can use that? Talmud Leimer comes the pasuk. It says Akol Kabancha Takriv Melech. So the word Takriv is coming to include Kol Shahu, any type of melech, whether it's melech damus, as long as salt. Yes. Okay. So you want to. Oh, that's right. Takriv. So you want to comes to teach us that you can bring melech for salting the kabbanis. Mikol makim from anywhere. You can bring. You don't have to have dafka for that. So even for chutzlaritz. That's one thing. And mitaka we learn afilu b'Shabbos. You could be makiv. You're allowed to salt those kabbanis you bring on Shabbos. You're allowed to put salt on those kabbanis on Shabbos. And then he says afilu b'tumah. And even those that are being, it's a tzibur that's being makiv when they're tamei. So tumah is hutza b'tzibur. You're allowed to bring a carbon if it's a Yes, something is in Shabbos. B'chlal a tamei they can tonish bringing carbon. But if it's a tzibur that was tamei. So there's a klal tuma hutra b'tzibur mit mat gemacht for a tzibur to maken sein the carbon. So that carbon that you're being marked because of a tzibur who's tamei, he says you're allowed to even put salt on that also. Okay. So what's the pshat when you said about the salt tivayneyo? Meaning the same amount when you want to make a brick. You have to put a lot of straw in it in order to make the brick, to make it strong. That's how much salt you have to put on the carbon. You should have said that straw, that the shear is the like the straw that you put in the brick. Abaya said, no, I would have thought that you make it like layers, so much salt. Layers, you put bricks on top of the bricks. I would have thought you put so much salt. Yeah, or no, he means one brick on top of the other. So much salt. Like the bricks. I would have thought a lot. I'm like, Abaya said back to Abaya, if so, even that, if you're building it like bricks, so say even that. A brick wall over here with salt. Tivuneu. So Rava says this is the Kabbalah. Tivuneu, my Tivuneu. I would have thought, just like by understanding, Amol is inward, and you understand what's going on. He missed that one word. You can explain a guy 100 times. You're missing one word. Some Altakasha, very good. But you say that one word or two words, and he gets the kasha. So that's what he's saying. That's how you don't need a lot of salt. Tiny, a little bit of salt. No, you got to put a little bit more than that salt. You can't put so little. That's what Timlach is coming to teach us. How does the kohen do the salt? Maybe he brings the limb of the carbon, the eva from the carbon. He puts on one side salt. Now he turns it over on the other side with yeah, exactly like that. He says, you turn it over on the side that there was no salt, and you put salt on that. Then you put it up on the mizbeach. The same thing we salt is ligdera for a pot when you have to cook. There, you don't need so much salt. When you cook something, you put salt. Yeah, but b'chlal, why do we have always salt on the table? Because shulchan damel mizbeach, punkt wir am mizbeach darf man allemaal haben Salz. That's why you have Salz.
Why do 3 times?
Das ist schön, Hagi, ich weiß nicht. Yeah, nothing to do with that. Okay, yes, the salt is mitzad shulchan damel mizbeach. That's why when a person puts his foot on the table, even though it's nicht menschlich, but you can tell him, it's a mizbeach, nicht. The salt that's on the carbon that's oimid lahaktorah that you have to burn. Boy, you're allowed to have a no. The melech that was on the eva and fell off, now the salt fell off the eva. So he say, hey, the mitzvah is chabiyaton. This salt is you're allowed to have a no. The salt that's on the ramp. They had salt on the ramp, and they had salt on the top of the mizbeach. And the salt that was on top of the mizbeach, then there was no me'ilah. What was the difference between the salt in the kevesh and the salt on top of the mizbeach? So he's going to soon say, what is this pasuk? He says, it says, you should be marked before Hashem, and the carbons on waffen salz on this carbon, the hell is Hashem, and you should bring it up as Ha'il to Hashem. Then Hasam. So since it's part of the carbon, so he's saying on the Eva itself, while it's on the Eva, it's taka. Okay, here he's going to say. Then Hasam, we learned in the Mishnah, ala melech vala eitzim, shehei kahakanim neyos behem. One second. Let me go back to this. He says when it's al gabi ha'ever and it didn't fall off, right? Then if it's on the aver, then it's aser. If it fell off the aver, the salt, then it's mutter. How do you know the salt on the aver is kadesh? Because it says that you bring the hello oisam plural. Oisam means the Eva mitvaz mit the melech. Zusammen mit the melech. So that's called the Eila. So it's part of the Eila. So since the salt is part of the carbon, so if somebody who has enough of it is Eva meila. I said it before wrong, but if it's on the ramp, the salt that's on the ramp and the salt that's on top of the mizbeach, ein moilam bay. There's no dimela. Why is there no dimela? Because it's not a carbon yet. It's separate salt. But if it's on the eva, then it's part of the carbon. It's oisam. It says well oisam. The salt is part of the carbon. Nan has we learned the Mishnah in Shkolim. Perik Zayin, Mishnah Zayin, Bezdin said, Al HaMelech Al HaYitzim Sheyehei Kahanim Ne'osim Behem. It says the salt and the wood of Hekdesh, Kahanim could have a no from them. Al Mashmul Leishanu, we didn't learn, Elo L'tzedek Kabanam. Only if it's the personal covenant that bring a present covenant.
From themselves?
They can use the salt for he's saying for the I'm bringing a carbon, so I can use that salt from Hekdesh for myself. But what's if I want to for the carbonates that Yisrael brought, and they're left over with the parts of the carbon to eat the kahanim? They cannot go ahead and chop from the lishka, the zalts, to use it for themselves. They have to bring salt, their own salt. If it's their own carbon, then yeah. But somebody else's carbon, they left over chalakim for the kahanim, they cannot grab salt from the Hekdesh. So my karbanim, what does it mean, li karbanim, for their carbon? Limloya karbanim, meaning to salt their own carbon that they're bringing, that they're allowed. But and what is la achila? Achila is kachim, like we said, that if somebody brings a chatos, so after they mock the day, but the kahanim eat from the meat, they're not allowed to take the salt. Like if I was nicht, when they get as a matana the oil from the hide of the behemoth, they could use the salt of Hekdesh to have it to notice. So sicher soll man kennen und zu verachillen. Ja, richtig. Sagt die Gemara, der Tanya, wie Leute in der Breise. In dem Zeis hat immer beschlecht, man kennt Melch Nesuna. There was 3 places where the salt was placed. One was Belishkes HaMelech. There was a special room where they had salt. And on the ramp, they had salt. And on the top of the Mizbeach.
Like a storage place.
Yeah, that was the Lishka. There was a Lishka where they stored the salt. That's one place. Another place they had on the Kevish, on the ramp that went up on the Mizbeach. And another one was on the top, mamish on the top of the Mizbeach. So you want to Belishkes HaMelech? Shesham hayu melchen ois hakadoshim. Lishkes HaMelech is that's where Gezalst, the hide of the kachim that they got. That's where they took the salt from. Agabe Kevesh on the ramp itself. Shesham olchim esayivarim. That's where they salted.
Each part of the coke was.
It was a different place where they used the salt. When it came to salt the limbs, they used the salt that was on the ramp. Why didn't they use the salt that was on the ramp? Anyway, they're going to take the potatoes. It's closer from the ramp to go to the Eichel. Yeah. Why did they have to go all the way to the top of the Mizbeach HaChitzin to put the salt on the Levinon and the potatoes? So he says because that was pure salt. Here, the one that was on the keves, they were salting the evanim, so it was dirty salt. It was so for the potatoes, they wanted the best. The minchas of the chavite kohen gadol that they brought in the morning and in the afternoon, and then the minchas nesachim is just from the wine. These 3 karbanes were completely burnt on the mizbeach, and they salted it.
It was like a
yes, was also completely burnt. Okay. So they were all salted with the melech of Hekdesh, with the salt of Hekdesh. So you see that the melech was allowed to be used even for basa kachim. They were allowed to use it for the basa. You see, they used that salt. And you said no. Says Gemara, you're right. Elamayla kabanam. What does it mean, lekabanam? La'achilis kabanam. It means take the kachim, the chalokim, from the kavmos on the gebracht, makim given, and there was leftover chalokim for the kahanim to eat. They were allowed to use the kachim, the salt. Umay. And what's la'achila? La'achilas cholim. It means eating stam meat, not that. They had their own private meat that was not kachim. In fact, what? Chulin? Pshit, the Bible awesome. Wie kommt Chulin rein in Hekdesh? Als man soll kennen legen Salz von Hekdesh. Chulin bringt nicht rein in Hekdesh. Says Gemara, Afagav de Yomama Yoichlu. Yoichlu, there's Yoichluha and there's Yoichlu. Yoichluha means you eat it that you from what you're bringing. Yoichluha, the carbon that you're eating, it. Yoichlu means stama achila from the outside. It means Chulin. So
it's not brought into.
So it's not from the carbon. You brought in from something from the outside.
Yeah, you can.
So he says sometimes you're allowed. Afagav de amama yoichlu, that when you the Aaron Rabbanim have to eat sheyoichlu me'imah, that they should eat together with the shirayim for their carbon. They should eat chulin utruma kadesh hey nechels al asriva. So that the meat so sagen that because you don't come in like a hungry kid. Sometimes you go to a fancy restaurant, you don't come hungry to the restaurant. Because when you come to a beautiful restaurant, you're supposed to look like a man. But if you're hungry, you're not going to look like a man. Yeah. Okay, but you eat it slow. You do it right. But when you're hungry, everything's going fast. Here is a we need that. Sheyesh lachem b'derech kavod v'chashivas k'derech hamlachim v'loi kirav nosois. Nicht as if you're hungry k'derech aniyim, because the others have to and it's not normal. So that's why if there's not enough shadaim to eat from the kachim, you bring chulin, you fill yourself up a little bit, and then you eat before. So I would have thought, hey, it's connected with the mincha because you wanted the mincha should be eaten al hasoiva. So the chulin is really connected with the kachim. So I would have thought, the chulin make the legging. I could use this salt. Over there, we're not going to allow melech the kachim. So too, it's reasonable to say. Because these hakadait chmayel kabana, if you're gonna think, what does the kabana mean? Limloyach, it means to only salt their carbon before burning it on the mizbeach, like we said the chatchila time of the asnim bezdin. You're saying the whole reason is because Bezdin allowed him to take the salt. Halo asnim bezdin. If Bezdin didn't say he could take the salt for their personal carbon, no. What are you talking about? The hashtag yisol yavinon. When a yisol brings our carbon from kachim, we allow them to use the melech for the karbanes without any tnoyim. So the kahanim lo yavinu, we're not going to give for the kahanim to use the salt for sure. The Tanya that we learned in the Raisa, where do we see that Yisraelim can use it? We learned in the Raisa, Yochalai Marei Alai Mincha. I would have thought when he says Harei Mincha Yavi Melech. I would have thought when he says he's bringing a mincha, that I would have thought that he has to bring the salt from his house, just like he's bringing the spices from his house for the mincha. The dinu, and I'll tell you, can learn out this din of melech from Levena with a binyanav. How? Nema havi mincha v'havi melech. It says havi mincha v'havi melech. Then nema havi mincha v'havi Levena. So we learn out from Levena. Ma Levena would take beisei. Afamel would take beisei. It's just like Levena has to be brought from his house. So today I would say the melech has to be brought from his house. Levena, it was spices that they put on the mincha. First, when he made the kmitza, he removed the spices. But when they burnt it, he did both together in a kli. So or I could say, Nema havi mincha v'havi melech. It says, bring the mincha and bring melech with it. And then it says, Nema havi mincha v'havi eitzim. And it also says, bring mincha and bring wood to be able to burn the mincha. Ma eitzim shel tzibah, af hamelech shel tzibah. So I said, maybe faket. Just like it says bring a mincha with eitzim and it's the eitzim of the tzibur, so too when it says bring melech, maybe it can bring for the tzibur. So we don't know which way to look. Do we learn out from Levena that it has to be from your house, or do we learn out from the eitzim that it can be shel tzibur? Neither. We have to see to which one it's more similar to. He says we have to learn out something that's known by all kabbanis from something that's known by all kabbanis. Levena is only by a mincha, not by all. So you can't compare to Levena. You have to compare to the eitzim, because melech is also on every carbon, and eitzim is on every carbon. So we're going to learn out from eitzim, just like eitzim is from the tzibur. So I'll say the melech is also from the tzibur. Maybe we should learn out the opposite. We should learn out something that comes together in a kli, in the same kli. The kaimetz, the kmitzim and the seiles come zusammen with the levena. in the kli and you throw it into the fire. Same keli. So we learn out. So we learn out from Levena that it comes out. It's your private, just like Levena is your private, so to the melech. And the salt also comes in the same kli. But eitzim doesn't come in the same kli. So that's why I would say I should learn out from Levena. So we have two ways to learn out. Tamaleva comes the pasuk and says, "Bris melach oilam hi." So with Exeter Shabbat it says "Bris oilam" to compare ma lahalam shel tzibur, just like by the lechma ponim, where it says "Bris oilam." It comes from the tzibur, the lechma ponim. Afkan, so too the melach, that where it says "Bris oilam" is mishal tzibur, comes from the tzibur. Rab Mordechai l'Ravashi. Okay. Mordechai gesagt zu Ravashi. Ach, he come Rav Shish B'Reid Azert Rav Shish B'Reid Avidi. This is what Rav Shish B'Reid Avidi said. Loi nitzecho. We don't need a Tnai Beznan Ella LeBen Buchri. Only according to Ben Buchri. The Tnan that we learned in the Mishnah. That by Amar Rav Yehuda, Hey Ben Buchri b'Yavna Kol Kohen she'Shekel Ein Achayta. Any Kohen that gives Machs HaShekel is not a sinner, even though Ben Buchri says the only ones that have to give a Machs HaShekel are the Shvatim and not the Kahanim. Kol ha'Iba al HaPikudin. Only Rak Misha Ava al HaPikudin Chayv lost his Machs HaShekel. So only who went before Moshe to be counted. Only all the Shvatim and the except the Kainim and the Leviim. So therefore there was no. They didn't have to give Machs HaShekel. Nevertheless, there was no sin. Yeah, no, he's a sinner. And he says really all kahanim are mechuyev to give Machs HaShekel because he learns kol ha'ima is going those that went through the Yamsuf, and he also learns out because it says zeh yitnu, you take the Zion and the Hay. Zion is 7, Hay is 5, is 12. Right. So that all 12 Shvatim, zeh yitnu, they all have to give Machs HaShekel. Yeah, only according to Rabbi Yechon. Al shakahanim darishim mikra zel le'atzmam. They dashen for the tables of themselves to pat themselves Machs HaShekel. Shaloi kedim. Chol minchas koyin kolotu. Yeah, it says the whole every minchas koyin is completely burned on his bayach loisachol should not be eaten. However, imo shtei alach v'nach ma'apanim shalanu eat. Since the oiman the shtei alach and lach ma'apanim go to the kahanim, so if they were mechuyev Machs HaShekel, they would have a chelik in that mincha, and all kabbanas hatzibur was acquired with the kesef of the Machs HaShekel. How could they eat it? Because they are part of that mincha, and these three categories we said that the only reason why the kahanim can eat it because they don't have a shutfus in it. And he says, well, Ben Buchri, now he's going to say, first he's going to answer. Let me just tell you then, according to Ben Buchri, the Kahanim didn't give Machs HaShekel. Right. So since they didn't give Machs HaShekel, so I would have thought they don't have a chelik in the Zalfs. They have no right to take the salt. That's why I would have said, for them. I would say, after you say them, that's why we needed the pasuk. So, but he says, well, Ben Buchri, he's asking a side shaila. Since they're not to being Machs HaShekel, when they bring it chitu, he's a sinner. How could they give Machs HaShekel? You're taking the Machs HaShekel, which is chulin, and you're bringing it into Azara. And you're metanish bringing chulin Azara. So the Gemara, the Maisu Masal in Tzibur, Taket, they didn't give it as Machs HaShekel. Then the Tzibur you give it to the Tzibur as a matana, but not as Machs HaShekel. But Sakedat Chamina, I would have thought. That's not. I would have thought Kisachlu Rachmana. When did the Torah merit that they should have Melach? Only for the Yisraelim, the Lishka, because they gave the Machs HaShekel. But the Kahanim, the less Lishka, but the Kahanim who haben nicht kein chelik in the Trumas Halishka from the Machs HaShekel. So because they don't give Machs HaShekel, Leisachlu Rachmana. I would have said that the Torah wasn't mezakeh that they should be of the merit to have the salt of Kodesh. That's why we needed the pasuk to tell us that even Kahanim have the right to use the melech of Kachim for their kabbanis, private kabbanis.